Are you looking for a fresh cut in Westerly? Step into Rio's Barber Shop in Granite Plaza. Whether it's a classic trim or a trendy new look, we've got you covered. Experience the perfect cut for every age and style in a friendly and relaxed atmosphere. At Rio's, it's not just a haircut, it's an experience. Visit Rio's Barber Shop in the Granite Plaza in Westerly or give us a call to schedule your appointment at 401-315-2208. Your style, our craft, Rio's Barber Shop.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Community Insights. Today we are live with Paulie G from Westerly.
Oh, and CI. Can't
no,
forget
don't
the
do
CI.
that.
Community
I'm gonna
Insights.
walk off.
I'm not getting involved.
I'm
All
gonna
right, who
walk
else
off.
are we with?
We are with the incomparable Jen Brinton from Graysale Brewing. Jen, how
Good
are you?
afternoon. Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I have a couple questions before we get
Good.
off the
I'm glad you do.
topic here. I told Jen that she can talk about whatever she wants, but I really want to know about her early start.
That was real?
Like
I know, right? I thought he was kidding.
I thought he
Yeah.
was kidding.
You know, I want to know where she went to school.
Nobody else
You know,
cares.
I care about this
Okay.
stuff. This sets it up,
All
and this
right.
brings it all together. So,
All
kind of bring us down memory lane, if
All
you will.
right. Well, I was born in West Germany, which I love saying because it's a country that doesn't exist anymore. I'm an army brat.
Okay, I was going to say, as an
My
American
dad was in
citizen.
the service. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I was born an American citizen, U.S. citizen, born abroad is what it's called
Right.
on my birth certificate.
Love that.
And moved back to the States not long after. So I really don't remember Germany from that time, but grew
What
up
state?
Brooklyn. State New York, Brooklyn, the city
Ooh,
where my parents grew up.
that's why you're so
Yeah.
tough. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. The only other contingent really that knows what soupy is, although
Some of
they
them
call
do
it-
in Brooklyn?
Saprasat's a big,
Really?
they don't call it soupy, but Saprasat is
Supersata, yeah.
huge in Brooklyn. So the only other, that was kind of a joke for a little while that my parents said, I landed in like the one other town outside of Brooklyn that,
Right, you know?
where Saprasat is a
It
thing,
was
right?
Yeah.
your blood.
So yeah, anyway, I was there, and my parents did what a lot of people who work in New York City did, and moved to New Jersey across the river.
Yeah.
Grew up in a suburb of Manhattan. Went to small Catholic school for K through 8, Academy of the Holy Angels, which is an all-girls
Academy of
Catholic
the
high
Holy
school.
Angels.
Yeah. For high school, went
All
to
girls.
Rutgers. Yeah, and then I flip-flopped and went to Rutgers Engineering, which in the 1990s was largely all men.
Yeah. But wait a
Um,
minute. When you was K through 8 was the all girls.
No, K through 8 was co-ed. Nice
Okay.
small Catholic school. Yeah.
And then when you went to high school,
Then I went to an all-girls Catholic high school. So in New
Okay.
Jersey, there are a ton of single-sex Catholic high schools. It's just such a populated area.
Yeah, yeah.
So anyway, so I went there and then went to Rutgers Engineering. And,
what kind of engineering?
I'm an industrial engineer. The focus there was in production.
Okay.
Where Rutgers is really in the heart of all the pharmaceutical companies. Just about every pharmaceutical
Oh,
company
really?
has a headquarter or a base right there in New Jersey. And so that's where we did a lot of our training, and a lot of what we did really tied into the pharmaceutical manufacturing, as well as the defense area.
Okay.
I always wanted to go work for a defense contractor. I got hired by Lockheed Martin,
Ooh.
and I was so excited about it. And
This is right out of college.
right out of college, and here's the irony. So I at first accepted, and it was this rotational program. I was going to do 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months, all different parts of the country, working on different things. 3 of them I was really excited about. Lockheed Martin's like Electric Boat, part of General Dynamics.
Okay. Government
And
contract.
yeah. So one of them was working on like the Aegis destroyer and just lots of different things. It was a lot of fun, except that one of the rotations would have had me working at Sega Genesis in Florida. I am not a video game person.
Oh, Sega
I
Genesis.
wanted nothing to do with
Yeah.
simulation in that
Oh, wow.
area. And I was like, you know what? And as that kind of got told to me that was going to be one of the places I was going, Merck Pharmaceuticals also offered me a position.
Ooh.
And I was like, you know what?
I'm going to jump ship.
Yeah. And I really didn't want to not go into the defense industry, but wound up in the pharmaceuticals. And that turned out to be a blessing because I met my husband, Alan, there. And
that's what
fast
he was
forward.
working?
And here we are in Westerly, Rhode Island.
Okay. How'd you get to Westerly then? As far as like, why Westerly? You guys both didn't have any
No
here.
connection. No. So when we met, we got married about a year and a half after we met at work. Well, we met at work, got married about a year and a half later. He had been living in New Jersey for 10 years, but he's from central Pennsylvania. And I think the day he moved into New Jersey, he was planning his exit from New Jersey. Yeah. And as he says it, being a Jersey girl, he figured if he didn't get me out of Jersey, then
you'd never
and we wound up having a family.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I would never leave Jersey.
Yeah.
So that was kind of his, let's look. So we
was it hard for you to think about moving on?
No, not at all. Okay. Alan and I have always, how we wound up where we are, we really we just kind of took things as they came. We never really had this huge strategy, this life plan laid out for us.
Well, do we ever?
We just something, happened. Like we stumbled on Westerly because I had circled it on a map at one point when I was driving through with a friend.
Looking at the ocean, looking at the border of Connecticut.
I did a drive. I got my job. I got hired by Merck. I switched within Merck, went to Eastern Connecticut. He wound up at a different pharmaceutical company in Rhode Island. And I had been driving around with a friend on a previous trip up here, and this was the day of maps. So Ben might not remember, but you probably do.
Remember maps. I'm not that young.
At the time, we had those Rand McNally, those big yellow books, and when they were by state, and every double page was a town, right? So my friend Karen and I, actually Alan's friend Karen, who did this trip with me, we, were driving all over Rhode Island looking at towns and stuff, and we wound up driving through Westerly, and I remember pulling in and seeing this library. And thinking, and it was snowing out. It was beautiful.
Oh, wow.
It's like Sunday morning. I was like, wow, this is what a beautiful quintessential New England town. Park. Everything was like light dusting of snow. It was a good sales brochure. Right. So we wound up driving around and circling some streets. And again, it was January. It's not like it was a vibrant beach community or anything, but growing up in Jersey, you could not live near the ocean without having a fortune, saved up. Number one. And number two, you pretty much wound up with a house where you could hand, hand something to your neighbor through the window. Right. Exactly. So which again, Alan, Alan was looking for more space and whatnot. Yeah. And we moved up here right before the boom of, everybody wanting to move up here. So it was right before 9/11. Where people, 9/11. Yeah. We moved up in 2001. 2000, and then our house was done and we moved in 2001. And right after that, with 9/11, that's when everybody kind of from the New York, New Jersey area started looking at where can we, instead of traveling all over the world and doing these things, let's buy a second home where our family can really hunker down. And we got in ahead of that.
Those big moments in history end up creating a migration. We just had another one, obviously, with the pandemic, where everybody from the cities and it's the perfect place to move because it's directly in between New York and Boston, and it's this little known. Again, we stumbled on it by just driving around.
What was his take on Wesley? Was it the same?
Alan was just like, yeah, this is great. It's not New Jersey.
What are the towns? what are the towns in Rhode Island were you thinking of?
I honestly don't remember that.
Okay, so this was that big then. Okay,
yeah,
well, I'd love to hear that.
We looked at some places in the country of Eastern Connecticut, up to like Coventry, Connecticut, Brooklyn, Connecticut. We looked at some. I always had this idea of having this really old house with random plank floors and wide pine floors and all this, and I was always drawn to that, but we just couldn't find anything at the time that
contemporary neighborhood.
Yeah, and we wound up building new, but in a kind of more historic style, so to speak. So, but again, it was just stumbling on this area, and we're so thrilled that we did. We've since raised our 4 kids here. We have businesses here. and we're not going anywhere.
So then you were
great.
here for over 10 years before Gray Sale.
We were.
Wow,
we were.
I didn't realize that.
Well, about almost 10 years actually. So
it was 11.
Yes.
Right?
So I go back to when we started planning it. So that was kind of, so when Alan and I had met and started dating, he had this idea of doing a brew pub up in Vermont. And I like paychecks and stability and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And there was no way I was getting into that.
Yeah.
Like that was, no, thanks, honey. I'm really not that interested.
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah. So, and he very Alan-like put everything on hold, never said a word, of any disappointment or anything. Just, okay, well, this will be great. We'll go with this plan. And
so he stayed in pharmaceuticals as well.
He did.
At that point?
He did up until we had, I think it was 2018 when he actually left his full-time job because the brewery was stable enough to do that, or getting stable enough to do that. And it was growing to the point where we needed him there full time, really.
Right. Okay.
But with that, it was our 10th anniversary. And I had said to him, I said, look, my gift to you is, if you want to pursue this hobby brewery, let's do it. Cause you
warmed up to the idea then.
I warmed up to being the supportive wife who had, for 10 years got to live where I wanted to live, have kids, stay at home, when I wanted to, started a wedding planning business when I thought, well, I'd really like to work and, not be home. I'd like to be home during the day, but I'd like to have some kind of job. Mm-hmm. Started a wedding planning business and did that. I just retired from that after 21 years of doing that as well, just this past year. And
21 years. I didn't realize
21 years I was doing that. Yeah. So anyway, so then I was just kind of, let's do what you want to do. Emily's going to be in kindergarten. I can go back to work full time. And,
did you have any idea where this was going to be going?
No,
right.
Okay. It's going to be a hobby brewery.
Yeah. Right.
It's going to be a hobby. And we were going to wind up in Connecticut. And it was, at the time in Rhode Island, there was this Keep Space Westerly project.
Okay.
Which actually I was just rereading the comp plan because why not? Why not?
Well, okay, yeah. I don't know if most people are like, that's a great.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was refreshing my memory on some parts of the comp plan, and Gray Sale's actually mentioned in the comprehensive plan, the last one. So I was reading back on that, and it was actually in the comprehensive plan back then. In 2010, Keep Space Westerly was a thing. These keep space communities that were really looking at rehabbing old properties, using buildings that may not have another purpose.
So it was a nonprofit that gives you some grant money?
We didn't get any grant money.
Oh, really?
It was just kind of this concept thing, right? And it was just encouraging and putting focus on, some of these towns in Rhode Island have these beautiful old mill buildings that need some love, need some attention. Instead of building new or going somewhere else, why not consider one of these properties? Well, we had been looking in Connecticut, and some things, tragedy sometimes has, their silver linings. The flood of 2010 happened.
March of 2010.
And with that flood, Jamie, as probably anyone watching, listening knows, is a wonderful, wonderful community man and business owner. And he had Napa Auto Parts in the building we are now. His mom, June, owned the building. And he basically, I think, I don't want to speak for him, but the story I've heard is he was contemplating a move to a more trafficked area anyway, like Route 1, where he is now. And this was kind of that final, okay, this is the writing on the wall.
Yeah, let's go, let's
do it. So he had closed up shop and did what he is known to do, which is put everything of his on hold. And he helped all of his neighbors in the North End who desperately needed some help. And through the fire department and all, really helped out with the getting through the flood and the recovery and all. And shortly after that, his mom had put up the building for sale. So this was, March, April, say May, and in that time, right before the flood, I also found out that I was pregnant with Mary, my fourth kid. And it was like, oh my gosh, we're planning this business and never having another kid.
I literally just said we're good. That
right.
Last one's in kindergarten. We can go
back. I was
like,
oh my gosh. So kind of looked at this like, okay, we'll put the brewery plans on hold again. So that's what we did. And then when I was really crazy at like 7 months, we were talking about my crazy before. At 7 months pregnant, I was like, honey, we've had kids before. We know what we're doing. Let's still do the brewery. Yeah. And when we got back into it, a man locally, Mark Gordon,
okay,
who you probably know well, right? From church, from St. Vincent de Paul Society, contributes a ton, does a lot of good work here. He was involved with Keep Space Westerly.
He was. Okay. Is that your connection to him, or did you know him before that?
I did not know him before that. He was introduced to us, I think, because he heard about the project, and one of my neighbors knew him. And he wound up approaching us and said, hey, I know you're considering Connecticut, blah, 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 right over the border. Yeah. But there's some buildings in Westerly. Can you just take a step back and look? And I was like, well, actually, we just got back into looking into this. So yeah, sure. Yeah. And we did. And timing's everything, right? And this is where I say we really didn't have this grand plan that we were just going to set. We weren't ever set in stone. Yeah. The flood happened. Jamie and June put the building up for sale. And I was pregnant with Mary. All of these delays put us at the point where now the building was for sale.
Yeah. At the right time.
Neighbor and good friend who's like they're like brother and sister for us. They're like the family you choose, not the family you're born with. Right. Came over on a Friday night in December and said, let's buy this building together. And I was like, yeah, you're crazy. It's too small. He's like, no, you said 3,000 square feet. It was involved in the flood. We're going to have to rework it anyway. So let's at least look at it. So that was a Friday night. Saturday, I called the realtor.
That's December of 2010.
Yep, December 6th, I believe was the date. I looked at the building out from the outside. Saturday, we called the realtor. We went inside the building. There was a guy selling Christmas trees out of the front. Like no heat, nothing. He was selling Christmas trees out of the front.
Like Rogue? Or...
I don't know. I didn't ask.
Okay.
I was speaking in the building.
Sure. I didn't ask.
I didn't ask.
I assume it was
none of my business, right? So I don't know. You're on the licensing board. I don't know if he was approved. So anyway, so we go into the building. We look it out. We look at it. We had already ordered equipment on the used market.
Yeah.
Alan goes home, does his sketch. He's like, actually, everything could fit. Sunday, we made an offer. June accepted on Monday.
Oh,
and
wow.
That was it.
Wow.
It was like done, right? Could not be happier.
It was a smooth transition of the sale.
Yeah, everything was. She was so patient. She waited because we had to go to town for a special use permit because breweries were not part of the zoning code. It was going to be a special use.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it was allowed, but we had to get the special use permit, go through zoning and planning. And nobody really knew what to do with us. They were like, okay, what?
Yeah,
you want to do what?
Yeah, I know, right.
So, we worked through all the plans and explained the equipment and what we were going to do and everything. And it just worked. Here we are almost 14 years later in existence. And
how many buildings later? Because that original building turned into some other...
So that original building we purchased. Yep. And then we purchased the property next to us. I don't know, north, south, east, west, whatever, but next to us, if you're looking at the building to the right of us, there was a small house there,
a garage
and a garage in the back. Yeah. And we wound up tearing that down a few years after we bought it. We used it for a little bit. We actually made the 2-bay garage our cold box. We retrofitted it to be a cold box for storage. And then we tore it down and we did our expansion in 2017 with our packaging line and everything and our actual cold box. That was 2017. Before we did that renovation, we had, in the meantime, purchased the property on the other side of us. And so some history there. The Cataldo family that built the brewery building, we were talking before, it started as the Westerly Macaroni Manufacturing Company.
Yeah,
and
I didn't know that.
When we were doing our thing and we were going to put up our sign, poor Daniel, who works for us. He was up on ladders measuring because there was this white board on the top of the building at the parapet.
Yeah.
And it was faded and it had once been a post office sign. We could kind of tell through the fade.
Okay. So it wasn't the macaroni sign.
Well, so he's up there measuring perfectly so that we could have printing plus, make our sign to go up on the building. So it would fit perfectly in place of that whiteboard.
Yes.
He must have been up there on this ladder like 6 times, just double checking, triple check, everything. So the sign gets in, the guys are up there, like all the ladders on. It was like an iconic picture. Right. I think I still have it at home. All the ladders were against the building. And I pull up on like a rainy evening and the guys are all standing there staring up. And I'm like, what's going on? They were like, well, kind of have a problem. We don't think we want to put the sign where we planned it for. And I was like, what? Well, they took down that white sign and found underneath it the original granite block engraved Westerly Macaroni Manufacturing,
nice.
MFG.
Wow.
Period. That is still there and visible. So we put our sign below it. So we left the original sign of the building because it's the history.
That's
right?
on the building. Looking at it to the left, that building.
No, it's in the original building.
In that original, where Napa
building.
was, where
Right.
Jamie was.
Right. I was digressing back to this building because of the Cataldo family. But they built that building as the Westerly Macaroni Manufacturing Company. And then it became the U.S. Postal Service. And then the Silvestri family bought it, I think in 79 or 89.
Yeah.
And then it became Napa Auto Parts and then us. So, but that yellow house, which was white at the time, next to it,
The residential
was the Cataldo's house.
Okay.
So they built the macaroni manufacturing company first.
They lived right next
They
door.
operated out of it. They lived in a tiny apartment that they built in it, inside it, and then they 4 years later. So in 1929, or 28, they started it. 29, they moved in, and that is the house that is now our tap room. With the original murals into the walls, which were painted in 1937.
It's so gorgeous in there.
The artist
How do you know that?
The artist signed one painting. So we're assuming it's the same artist for everything.
Oh, okay.
That is an assumption, but he did sign one of the paintings on the wall, into the wall. It's really it is the wall above one of the fireplaces. And he signed it Montallo in 1937.
Wow.
So it's the only one we have.
But it does look like it's all one piece.
Now it does. Well, because in the middle, so the garage units that were part of the house when we purchased that, and we purchased that in 2015, those garage units didn't look like they did now. They had a flat top. They were the brick base. They looked a lot like the brewery.
Okay.
When we were doing our distillery, another addition, South County Distillers, when we were building that out, which was in about 2018, we did that renovation. We put the peaks on the garage to raise the ceiling level so that we could put distilling equipment inside.
Correct.
And that's when we put the peaks on to kind of replicate and tie the brewery to the house. And we painted it the same yellow as the house so that everything kind of tied together. So it looks like one uniform campus. And, part of it was we really wanted to contribute to, at the time, it was the revitalization of the North End.
Yeah, you definitely cleaned things up over in that area. I can't imagine there being any conflicts with neighbors or anything.
No. And not to say that the previous owners didn't.
Right.
We just gave it a different look. And we
part
kind
of
of tied
whole...
it together. And it went back to the history of it, which is when the Cataldos owned the entire property. And now it was kind of back to being unified. And, the biggest boon, I think, really from the community standpoint was a lot of people, even at the planning board meeting that night, I remember going and I had my whole presentation. I always do my own owners, presentations, my own narrative.
Right.
And I had Sergio sitting next to me as my engineer and Tom Ligori sitting next to me for the technical engineering questions and the legal questions and whatnot. And I'm sitting there and Linda, I'll get her last name wrong, so I won't even try. It began with a B. She knew the house from when she was a kid.
Oh my goodness.
And before anything even started, she just said, I have a question. I remember being a child, being in that house. I'm paraphrasing, but being in that house and the murals on the walls. Are they still there? I said, absolutely. I said, and other than what code enforcement tells us we have to do to the house to make it code compliant, to be open to the public, if you okay this, we are leaving everything else intact. The ceilings, the wood carved moldings, the murals, all of that stuff. And she was so funny. She's like, well, I make a motion to approve. And I was like, wait a minute. I haven't even presented
I know.
I did so much homework.
Right. I was like, but I'm so ready.
Oh gosh.
And I was like, I don't want to not do a presentation.
Was it contentious though? I can't imagine.
No, not at all. Not at all. When we started the brewery, there was one gentleman who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, who brought up the concern. Again, nobody knew what a brewery. You think brewery, and you were thinking, Newark,
Budweiser,
New Jersey,
whatever,
you're not thinking small craft brewery, right? Because they just didn't exist here at the time. Newport Brewery or Newport Storm, what it was called at the time, existed in Newport, and that was about it. And as you know, by Rhode Island standards, that's like you need a passport to
Yeah,
go to Newport. 'Cause it's over two bridges.
I've never been.
Right. Well,
That's not true. That's
all
not
right.
true.
So, 2 bridges away. So there was
Yeah.
no real experience with the brewery. And one gentleman made a comment, that he didn't love the idea because he felt like putting a brewery in the North End was just dumping on the North End, and the North End's had enough dumping on. And,
that was his perspective.
That was his perspective.
Yeah.
But again, it's not that it wasn't a good perspective. There was no knowledge of what a brewery looked like,
right,
how did it smell when you're in the boil, all that stuff. And I believe he did actually vote to approve the special use permit and moving forward with the brewery at the time. This is back in 2010.
Yeah.
And has since said to me, God, was I wrong?
Yeah, right.
I mean, we have great dialogue. And again, I always had respect for his opinion because that's what they're there to do, to look out for the community, and they should. And he
that's
did
proper
a job.
dialogue.
And I said, I hope we made you proud that you were on the committee that actually allowed us to move in. And he said yes. And, that meant more to me really than most things. So
when you think about Graysdale Brewing now, and when good things come to mind, because there's multiple facets of the business.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about? What comes to mind when someone says, "Oh, Graysdale Brewery"?
So we love, again, we never had like a mission statement or anything like that, but we love that from day one. Again, we'll bring up another tragedy right in town with Superstorm Sandy, which happened just months,
2011,
a year after,
6 months after, right after the
well,
December
it
of 10.
happened in 12.
Yeah,
in
so
12.
Was it 12?
Yep.
Oh yeah, because Irene was 11.
It was October
29th.
12th. Yep.
Yeah, October
29th,
October
2012.
Okay.
So the things I think about are, one, that really, our brewer at the time, Josh, he's like, we wanted to help. We wanted to do something. And those are a lot of our customers down at the beach and all, and friends, neighbors, families that we knew through the school system and all. We wanted to do something. And he said, well, let's do what we do. Let's brew a beer and market it and make all the proceeds, like everything, not profits, just everything that came in from it. We'll donate to the fund that the chamber had set up to help the businesses and the residents and everything. Right. So, because I don't know if you remember, but back then it was, you had to go to the chamber to get your red card.
Oh, yeah.
If you were a resident or you were a contractor
Right. You
working
couldn't
in
just
that
drive
area,
down there.
could not drive down there. You had to go to the chamber and check in. And that was the emergency services hub. Yeah. To be able to access that area. So we, started talking with them, and I had very little knowledge of the Chamber of Commerce at the time. But we started talking with them and started talking with, others, and we're like, okay, let's brew this. And we started talking with town councilors.
Okay.
And that February, I think it was February, but because it takes a little time to get, recipes developed, get things approved. We have to go through federal approval and state approval whenever we do a new beer.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's
a whole other side.
You got to make sure it's like edible.
When
you're going to be able to drink it.
Talking about like the things that the compliance end, not so much fun. And that, of course, is my job. So,
yeah, right.
That's less fun than paying bills and scrubbing toilets. But but I deal with it because you have to.
Scrubbing toilets and paying bills
is less fun. Yeah.
And then underneath that is compliance issues. So, but anyway, so by the time we did that, it was January, February, and we were packaging it, and we set up in our brewery. We set up all the tables.
Okay.
We hand labeled every can of Bring Back the Beach Blonde Ale was what it was called. Still have the can in my house.
Bell now. Yep. Yes.
And almost every town councilor came. We had so many people lined up in the brewery. Andy and Jen from Cook Goose.
Oh, right.
Brought us breakfast because they knew that they are amazing, phenomenal people.
And they're going through it right now. Yeah,
but I always say the hardest working couple in Westerly. They're amazing. We had breakfast. I mean, it was just such a fun community event with a purpose, and it was part of our business. And I still remember it vividly. I remember standing across the table from Diana Serra.
Diana.
Yep.
She's wonderful.
She was standing across the table from each other, labeling this beer. And I just remember the morning. It was just such a great morning. So it was things like that. And that propelled a lot more of that. So we do Cheers for Charity, where every month we try to do something charitable, whether it's opening our doors for a fundraiser for a local nonprofit or group to
Gotcha.
earn
philanthropy
revenues.
is on the
Huge,
table.
huge
Yeah.
So
part.
much.
So we
That's
so
great.
much.
that's been a big part. So that to me is a really big part. The other part that I love
So
about
that's
it,
one of the things that come to mind.
yeah,
And
and
then
then the other
thing,
part is our staff. We have a great staff. We have a great relationship with our distributors, our staff. We're up to 15 full-time employees at the brewery
Wow.
now,
Good
with a
for
handful
you.
of part-time. And just being a good employer is something that when we said we were going to do this, and it became more from a hobby brewery to actually a business,
Right.
before we even opened our doors, that said if we're going to be an employer, we're going to do it right. We're going to take care of them. And we have really no turnover. I was just texting actually with Earl. Earl worked for us for years. Paul Donahue's nephew.
Oh, okay.
He left us. He didn't want to do sales anymore.
Paul's nephew.
That was his job. And now he works at Westerly Paints, and he's texting me earlier today just about a thing with Westerly Paints at the tap room and stuff. And it's people like that. It's those people, people who are local, who work for us.
Yeah.
And just, it's been a great family development, and we really have no turnover. And
that's great.
And
well, that's Westerly in a
it's
certain respect. The
great
heart of Westerly. You have that loveness and relationship.
Very few people live here in Westerly. I mean, we've got like somebody from Warwick, somebody from East Greenwich.
Really?
And they actually travel all that way to work here, which is quite a compliment.
Which is how much they love it,
right? So, but being a good employer is another thing that I just absolutely
that's something that brings a smile to your face.
It does, and it also causes stress. Like this month, my job every March is to come up with the renewal plan for our health insurance that we offer for our company. And this year it's like needles in the eye because of the increase in the cost of health insurance. But we're adamant that we will continue to provide it because I think they all deserve it and should have it and should have good access to it. And we've got a lot of young employees with growing families. And so anyway, so those two things, I think the getting to deal with the staff and the charitable component, which is kind of my thing, and the community component, the distillery, again, all these things kind of come up with tragedy, which is so sad.
Right.
But we got our license for our distillery March 6th.
March 6th,
2020.
I mean, I knew what year it was going to be.
Right.
That's
when
a week
you
before.
say week before. Do you even need to say what it was? Right.
Yeah.
The week before everything got shut down for our 2-week pause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2-week pause.
Our 2-week pause.
That.
I'm
Remember
still on the 2-week pause right now. I still haven't gone back to work.
We were going on our 2-week pause. We got our license right before our state license, which is the final step to be able to produce.
God.
And our first product was hand sanitizer.
Oh my goodness.
We did not produce bourbon. We didn't start.
Oh, because you knew. Yeah,
barrels.
right. Yes.
We made hand sanitizer.
Yep.
Because the federal government gave approval for distilleries within the United States, because there was such a shortage and a need for hand sanitizer, gave the distilleries, the World Health Organization put out a formula. And if you followed this formula, which was 80% alcohol, basically, if you followed their formula to a T, you could produce it excise tax free.
It was delicious.
Federal government never lets you do anything excise.
So you never did beer prior to that?
We did. I mean, beer,
prior to it.
No. Beer was the brewery. That was already far and away. I'm talking
the distillery.
about the distillery,
yes. Okay.
Right.
Distillery,
South County Distillers.
Yes. Right. Excuse me.
So that was the first product out the door in 2020 was hand sanitizer. And we got contributions. Again, that wonderful friend, who helps support with the purchase of the building, and they've been an incredible partner ever since day one. Not to mention the godparents of Mary, my youngest.
Great. You don't want to throw a name out, huh?
No.
You don't want to throw a shout out? You don't want to embarrass him? It's like, don't talk to him.
He probably wouldn't appreciate that. But he was like, he's a part owner of the distillery too, and said, let's do this. Like, let's here's some seed, because we had no money as a distillery. The brewery was kind of helping it get started,
right?
And so we got some seed money to get the components and the supplies and make it, and then we basically gave it away. The joke was that my job for all of April, May, June was managing the list. I had the list. It was an Excel spreadsheet of every single person, every entity that called us from near. I mean, I had calls from nurses in New Jersey who were like, we're just trying to get our hands on anything we can get our hands on.
Oh my
and
goodness
I mean,
gracious.
we had people who were like, we know you can't mail this stuff or ship this stuff, but if we drive up, can we get it? I was like, yeah, but they won't let you across the border.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I know.
You know, I was like, we got to take care of our local community. So, you know, I would make phone calls and find out what distilleries down by them might be producing to get on their list. And there was a lot of back and forth. So that was my job for months, was managing this list and giving people what they needed: doctors' offices, dentists' offices, visiting nurse associations, you know, people who were in the healthcare industry who has the Amtrak police. I didn't know we had Amtrak police until COVID.
Oh, yeah.
When one of the officers was like, do you think we could get some for our vehicles? Because we have to. I was like, sure. You know, we took a great picture of him holding the case of hand sanitizer outside his Amtrak police vehicle, because outside the brewery. So I was like, I didn't even know there was an Amtrak police at this point. Yeah. And so that, again, another sad, you know, tragedy that our town did such a beautiful job pulling through, amazingly, and.
Yeah, we all worked together.
We really did. And the town actually, Julia Beasley still has one of the hand sanitizers. So the town actually wound up purchasing, did a purchase order for the hand sanitizer, because they couldn't get it either.
Yeah, no, right.
And the deal was we charged literally the cost of the materials. There was no profit in this, but the deal was whatever we got, we rolled forward, we made more. And then and the Ocean House was phenomenal. You know, they could afford to buy it. And they said, we love this. We want to support it. We'll buy it from you so that you can make more to give away.
That's really awesome.
And, you know, so there were pockets of those types of relationships where there were businesses who could afford to, or philanthropists in town who could afford to,
right,
who said, we want to support. This is such a great thing because, you know, we're giving away, you know, what one of the people who contributed just said, all I want to do is be there for like 10 minutes while you're handing stuff out just to see it in operation. I was like, absolutely. Yeah. So we had people who, you know, in town who had made masks. You know, they were bored to tears. Yeah. So there were, you know, people with sewing skills who were making masks to give away. So we had like a bucket of masks. Take a mask if you need, you know, and it was just, again, it was the beauty of community coming together. And this is the topic of your show, right? So
sure,
it was the beauty of the community coming together, and in the face of, you know, that. So Superstorm Sandy hit the beaches, the flood of 2010, Bradford, the North End, downtown Westerly, you know, and the other pockets of the towns that weren't affected in those really came together, you know, to help each other out. The Chamber of Commerce was the linchpin, you know, being that, you know, not just a good job.
They really do.
From the business standpoint, from the resident standpoint, they partner with the town, you know, again, for that emergency. They were the emergency depot, right? Perfectly situated and, you know, on town property and right there. And, you know, and then COVID, you know, we were a little less hospitable because we had we were hospitable to what was needed, but we had the National Guard sitting in the parking lot, you know, checking people and saying yes or no, you can come or can't, you know, which isn't as hospitable as you want to be for a tourist welcome center.
I know, right? I know.
But, you know, but there we were. And, you know, again, the beauty of everybody working together, you know, through the one fund that was set up for, you know, in Westerly, and just all these different things, and being able to be a business that is fortunate enough to have good community support, that we're able to do more for the community. It's all circular. And to me, it's the very definition of living in a small town, right? You benefit from your community, and it is incumbent on you to give back to that same community.
But you do give back, Jen, not because you want to.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? I think that's the difference there. And as opposed to what's in it for me, I'll give to see what I can get. And that's not the case.
And I have no problem with people owning businesses or running businesses in towns where, you know, they're not, you know, ingrained or whatever. I'm not making any statement on that, but it really highlights when you are part of the community and you own a business, and you want to be involved, and you want to be involved in your kid's school system and all this stuff. Right. It just, to me, it makes it more fun. It makes it more enjoyable. It brings these connections. It's why I got to meet you. It's why I'm here.
Well, the chamber, that we were on the board together.
We're on the board together.
We were at the Hilltop.
But I knew you before that because our kids went to school together.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Yes.
You know, those kids was...
Right, forgot about the offspring.
Right, those things. So, you know, it's just, again, it's just those kinds of things.
All right.
So.
How about the Beach Blonde Ale? Is that still on the table?
No. Well, no. We made that.
So
we still have a blonde ale.
You do, but it's not. It's not that one though.
It's the same blonde ale, but we make it for the Mystic Aquarium. It's Beluga Blonde.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, the beach was back.
The beach is back. Worked. Thank God.
It worked.
Right.
The blonde ale brought it back.
That was.
I still have the label, the can at home that has the label on it from that morning that we all got together and did that.
Oh my
we
goodness,
have a comment about the distillery.
Yes.
Brandon Dugas said joined. He said, "Hi, Paulie G.
Yeah.
Just joined. Sorry if I'm off topic, but I heard South County Distillers just released their first batch of single barrel bourbon. Where can I find it?"
Oh, at so the local package stores. We love supporting our local package stores because they have supported us since day one. So any one of the 5 local package stores here in this area should have it by now.
Connecticut,
I don't know if they all took it in, but if they didn't, they have access to it and can certainly get it. And if not, we do have it at the brewery. We do have it for sale in the front of the brewery.
Can I tell you, Jen, that I didn't know. I knew Gray Sail before I knew it was local. I know that it says Gray Sail Brewing of Rhode Island on everything, but like I knew the beers, I knew Flying Jenny, I knew I saw the beers in the local package stores, in the local liquor stores, at Malted Barley, at the places I would host trivia at, and everybody was drinking them, and then one day it was like, yeah, so I was over at Gray Sail in Westerly, and I was like, wait, that company's local?
You didn't even know they were local.
Literally was like, wait. Gray Sail's a local company? I just thought it was like a really popular beer that I didn't know about because I didn't drink that much.
Right.
But so I was like, oh, cool. I had drank it for years and didn't know until I don't remember when. But
I'm glad. It's always a pleasure when somebody finds us because they found us on the market. And,
that's a question I have. Are you regional?
So we distribute regionally, but there are lots of technical terms in, again, compliance factors and how you do things. So everything that breweries do is measured by the barrel, which goes back to the Mayflower and previous, right? When they brought over barrels, everything is measured as a barrel.
Okay.
So which is 31 gallons. Okay. So 2 of those large kegs that you might see people moving around at a bar, 2 of those make a barrel.
Okay.
Yeah. Those are each 15 and a half gallons. So, and then you go down from that with smaller kegs and cases, et cetera, et cetera. So by the Brewers Association, the trade organizations, nationally, internationally, we are still a local microbrewery,
right?
Because we brew over 10,000 barrels, which for our classification is a pretty good size, but a regional brewer starts at 15,001 barrels.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
So we will stay a local microbrewery.
Yeah.
We have our capacity, which we can get. In the summer, we are maxed out. We're starting to get maxed out in the winter time as well.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So
great.
Yeah. No, it is great. It just takes a little bit more planning and
so
staging.
Will people know Gray Sail north of Mason-Dixon line type thing or south of it?
We distribute in New Jersey, in New York, just a little bit in Pennsylvania, mainly because my daughter's at Penn State now and graduated from Penn State. So there's this connection, and the distributor there wanted that connection, and so they do sell it for us there. So a little bit New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and then Connecticut. We look into Connecticut from our windows, right?
Exactly.
That's pretty much our backyard. So all of Connecticut, Massachusetts, we are in New Hampshire, mainly because Market Basket actually picked us up.
Market Basket, wow, that's a big one. That's like a Stop and Shop for crying out loud.
Yeah. So we're in New Hampshire as well, and I think that
no Maine, no
Vermont. States. No Maine, no Vermont. Okay. No, it's just. One, it's far.
Is that an aspiration to be, or no? Because it's traveling. Really. You're traveling to these places,
no,
right?
It's not really just that. It's just local beer is gold in most of New England, but especially in Maine and Vermont, which is like kind of the genesis of craft beer in New England.
Yeah. Okay.
When you go to Maine, and they're both very tourist driven areas, right? And
there's a presence there, is what you're
you
saying.
go and even Alan, like he'll ask for the local beer,
right?
You ask for the local beer. Like we hear from people, who come back to the brewery. We were at such and such restaurant. They didn't have the local beer. Like
they're going to tell.
So we got Budweiser. Like just. And it's nice for us to hear, I mean, of course we want every restaurant locally to have it and to be able to tout, hey, because we kind of act as a tourist depot, right? So people will travel for breweries and brewery tours. So they'll come to us, they'll go to Beard over in Stonington.
Oh, Beard, Velvet Mill.
They might go up to Tilted Barn in Exeter. They'll come to the area and spend a weekend. And these are usually people who might like the beach, but they're coming up for other things, not just the beach, right?
Great.
They're drawn for brewery tours. Brewery tours are a big thing. Bopping around, stamp your brewery passport, etc.
Oh, they have those types of things?
Rhode Island Brewers Guild has them.
Nice.
Connecticut Brewers Guild has them.
That's nostalgic.
And we have this luxury of being right on the border. So we kind of get the best of both with both states.
Sure.
But with that, like we'll bring people in and then, people don't know the area and they came for breweries. Well, where can we go? Well, if you're headed over to, wherever you can eat, what are you in the mood for, and we can name like a whole bunch of restaurants. So, one of our goals is, okay, you came here for us. That's great. Now stay here for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And go downtown and see the downtown.
So the tourists, if you will get this when they go to your location and
we'll give them
great.
We give tourist information all year round, just like and again, we try not to be biased. It's what are you in the mood for? Like what kind of food do you want? And here's
steak, seafood, what do you want?
And here's the list of where you could go. We do promote the places that serve us.
That's great.
For
so
sure.
there's destination breweries where they have the passport thing.
A lot of people who travel for that, and
that's awesome.
So we get a lot of people. There was this thing in Rhode Island. This company, it's like their own marketing thing. They do Rhode Island food fights. I don't even know what like the basis is, but they do the Big Labruski in March. So they ask all the breweries. They give us a small stipend for the beer that we pour. Because we have to run it through our system no matter what, because no matter what you do, no matter what promotion you're running, you got to pay the state their taxes and the federal government their excise taxes. So we run everything through, but they give out these coupon. People buy into this program or whatever. That's their business. That's how they make their money. But the promotion is that, you can you get a ticket for every brewery that's participating in the state.
That gives you a sample or whatever.
Right. So these are mostly people who are coming from Providence, and the more populated areas but it brings them to Westerly.
Yeah, which they never would come to.
With that program and similar programs, we get people who come down here who they've lived in Rhode Island. Like you said, you've never been to Newport. They've lived in Rhode Island and have never been to Westerly. They were like, oh, there's something past exit 3.
I think it's Connecticut.
Like the joke used to be, well, we get to know exit 4 and, we're done, right?
Yeah, we're going to Connecticut. We're going to Mystic.
Oh, you're in Rhode Island. You're not in Connecticut.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So that brings people in.
It does.
Awesome. I love hearing
stuff
like that.
We're getting better and better about, doing that and again, promoting and whatnot. And it's great for the off season too, because, the restaurants downtown and stuff, to have people who will come in. Again, I was starting to say this, you'll travel for breweries. You're not necessarily going to travel for a restaurant.
Yeah.
Like you've got to be a Michelin restaurant, right? For somebody to get on your radar to go travel for
Wright's
it.
Chicken Farm or something,
but you come here in February, we close at 8. We don't want to compete with our bars and restaurants, that have supported us since day one. We close at 8. We also don't need that contingent. We're not a regular bar.
Yes.
We use our tap room to market, Gray Sale and local products and stuff. We have tapped apple cider, at our place too. So, our job is to say, okay, hang out here. You came, hang out here before you head back up to Northern Massachusetts or Northern Rhode Island or, Hartford or wherever. Right. So
I think I told you last time I was on the show, or last time you were on the show, or maybe I told Mark Lace this. My girlfriend and I took her friend who was visiting from Greenwich, Connecticut, to the tap room, and she loved it, but the pizza wasn't open that day. So she actually drove back a week later for a day that it was open.
Oh my goodness.
So she did a 4-hour round trip drive.
They make a good pizza.
She did a 4-hour round trip drive from Greenwich, Connecticut to come back
Vetrano's Pizza.
Well, and because she loved the brewery in general. So just for Gray Sale and Vetrano's
That's
Pizza.
nice to hear.
4-hour drive. So.
Well, that's
she's not a Rhode Islander, clearly.
No.
Greenwich, Connecticut. Wow, I know, right?
Clearly not a Rhode Islander.
That mentality. Me going to Charlestown.
Right.
Jeez.
Right. Gotta really prepare.
Oh yeah.
Gas up the car.
Okay, what can we expect to wrap things up, Jen?
Yeah.
By the way, it's been 50 minutes. Before we started this, I asked too many questions. She said, how long is it going to be? I said 15, 20 minutes. You said 2 to 3 hours. And I said, I will cut him off. I promise.
Well, and, I appreciate people who listened and chimed in over there.
Brandon Dugas, he's my gym buddy. Absolutely. He's a big community guy, and he's big when it comes to.
We also had a bunch of likes and shares and stuff. So
his wife's
thank you.
His wife's the branch manager at the Washington Trust on Franklin Street, Jennifer. Okay, so what's happening as we close up here with Gray Sale, with you, with things?
We're just excited for the summer to start.
Yeah,
the pizza shed will open up. I think
the lawn and everything.
Mother's Day weekends. Yep, the lawn is
entertainment.
We caved. We're getting sod this year because poor Wes has tried so many times and times to repair that lawn, and it'll look beautiful by the end of April. It's going to look great. We're just excited for summer. We're excited for people to be out and about. It started to pick up. You get like 2 nice days, and everybody's like, "Woo!"
Yeah, right. They get the itch.
Let's do some leaf cleanup, and then hit the tap room and whatnot. And it's been great seeing people walk around at night downtown and all. So I think that's really it. We're really excited about that. We're working on a non-alcoholic beer. We have all the equipment now, and we're waiting on the last piece of equipment. We're doing our trials. They're turning out pretty good. Getting some good feedback, so that should be coming by dry January 2026. I think is our target.
Perfect.
Takes a while, like we said before, to develop a beer, and especially non-alcoholic. It's, believe it or not, a lot trickier than
I bet it would be.
Alcoholic
of course,
beer.
of course.
Yeah.
It's
a lot more involved. So
all right. So if someone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to get in touch with Gray Sale?
On the website, and every phone number, no matter which one it is, gets forwarded to my cell phone, and I answer the phone.
All right. Okay.
Or leave a message and I'll get back to you, or Jennifer@graysailbrewing.com.
Email.
I am the point person for all phone calls, all information.
I texted you a week ago going, hey, I got somehow assigned to plan or help plan my 20th high school reunion. Who would I talk to about an event at Gray Sale? And you were like, me.
Yep,
and I was like, really? I was like, okay, cool. Yep, thanks.
Website is
graysailbrewing.com. Gray with an E.
Yep.
Yes, Gray with an E. Don't forget about
Gray
that.
with an E.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Yeah, this was nice. Yeah. This is very nice. We'll have you back.
Yeah.
You'll be back on.
Well, thank
for
you.
We got a lot to talk about still.
We do. He's got 2 or 3 more hours left.
You know what? Small town, lots happening. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
all right, Ben.
Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Close us out of here.
Well, I just want to say thank you to Carlos Rios and Rios Barbershop, our sponsor, our headline sponsor for Community Insights. And thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow with a bunch of shows, and later tonight, actually. Later tonight, I have the guys from Bomb Burrito on. They're going to be talking.
Yep. Dunn's Corners, my neck of the woods.
And then we'll have a bunch of sports shows and everything on tomorrow. And then we'll be back with Community Insights and
CI.
Tapped Apple on Monday.
Oh, nice. Perfect.
John's coming in?
Yes. Looking forward to
multiple Johns. Multiple generations of Johns will be
wonderful.
John and John.
So
nice.
Thanks, guys.
Great, guys.
Bye for now.
We'll see you.
Right.
Experience local excellence with Roof Right Roofing in Charlestown, Rhode Island. With over 40 years of unmatched expertise, Roof Right specializes in architectural shingles and holds the prestigious title of GAF Master Elite Installers. Known for their commitment to the community and support for local initiatives, Roof Right is your trusted partner for all of your home's roofing needs. Call today for a free estimate at 401-212-4140.
Hi, this is Dan from Lathrop Insurance. In this challenging insurance environment, Lathrop Insurance can be your beacon in the storm to help you find the coverage you need at the right price. Now, more than ever, you need a partner in the insurance industry that can work with multiple carriers to make sure you have the right coverage at the right price. Lathrop Insurance carries home, auto, and business insurance and can be reached at 401-596-2525. We've been supporting the local community since 1939, and we look forward to working with you.
What's going on, everybody? It's Patrick down here at the Wireless Zone at Dunn's Corners at 224 Post Road, and everybody down here is getting the brand new iPhone 16. We have it here in stock. The best part is right now, if you trade in your old phone, you get it for free. We got deals all weekend, awesome savings. Come on down and see us, 224 Post Road, Dunn's Corners, Verizon Wireless Zone. We'll see you soon.
D&V Mechanical specializes in the installation, maintenance, and servicing of Mitsubishi ductless mini-split heat pump systems. We are certified by Mitsubishi as Diamond Elite Contractors and factory trained and up to date on the proper procedure of the installation and service of Mitsubishi ductless heating and air conditioning ductless heat pumps. We assist with the paperwork to reduce much of the stress-related documentation required to get the state rebates and federal tax incentives. We are not a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-nothing company. We are masters of ductless heat pumps. It's what we do, and it's what we know.